Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the National Security Advisor Moeed Yousaf's Afghanistan visit. Of course, the assurance by the Afghan Taliban that Pakistan will not be subject of any terrorism ensuing from the Afghan soil. We'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking about Pakistan efforts, of course, consistent efforts to avert the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan that we've seen. The Prime Minister's own, he's taken this up from the very start, and he's been pleading the case of the Afghans to the international community. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about, of course, we've also seen a recent unfortunate surge in terrorist attacks in Pakistan. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Saeed Minhas, who's a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us today. We also have with us Arshad Yousaf Sahi, who's an Afghan affairs expert. Thank you for being with us. Qamar Chima, who is a foreign affairs expert. Thank you for joining us. And Lieutenant General retired Raza Khan, who's also a defense analyst. Thank you for being with us. Minhas, I'll start off with you. The visit that we are seeing at this time, we've seen Moeed Yousaf's Afghanistan visit. How relevant do you think it is, in the sense that, of course, we have taken Pakistan has taken a very personal interest in the prosperity and the humanitarian crisis that has been, that has developed and exceeded all proportions after the US withdrawal. How do you see this visit?
Yeah, this is very crucial because it's coming for multiple purposes. One, certainly Pakistan will be the first beneficiary if anything goes positive in Afghanistan, and we are the first effectees if anything happens wrong there.
Yeah.
And right now we should understand, and Afghan Taliban should also understand, that they have not been recognized yet by the world.
Yes.
So they are a government which is in limbo for all practical purposes, and the Pakistan is the only hope they have. But the problem we are having right now is coming from across the border.
Okay.
And that is one of the key issues which might be on the table when Moeed goes there, because it's not only about Pakistan's problem with TTP, it's not only about TTP and Afghan Taliban's collaboration and coordination, it's also about Afghan government's future. Because if they do not stop this, then their promise to the world that they will stop anybody from using their land for any subversive activities anywhere in the world will be big question mark on their credibility. So they have to make sure that Pakistan do not get what we are getting here. In the recent past, things have started surging again. Our talks with the Taliban, TTP, Pakistan, and our TTP's relationship with Afghan Taliban and release of all those prisoners
in
Afghanistan.
And also Pakistan as a key ally of Afghanistan at this time.
And we are the only hope right now Afghan Taliban have to get not only recognition, but also get the support, humanitarian support. And there's a big crisis looming around there. And even I was reading this WFP and UN agencies, they are saying that there are 23 million people who are suffering because of this. So on the one side, Pakistan is drumming up the beating the drums that let's open your coffers and send it to the people of Afghanistan, not the government of Afghanistan. But on the other side, Pakistan also is being watched by Americans very closely, watched by the Europeans very closely, and even by the Chinese very closely. Because we are the ones who are taking all that positive signs to Afghanistan or Afghan government, whatever government is there now, whether the government, international community recognizes it or not, but we are the only ones who are taking that passage to them, or a passage of hope. And that is, I think, the key agenda for Moeed right now. And we are hopeful that if this agenda does not fulfill, or Afghan Taliban does not fulfill their agenda or their promises towards the security of Pakistan, or what they are saying on paper right now, that they will not let anybody use their soil against Pakistan. It's not only about Pakistan. Afghan Taliban should understand, and the government should understand.
It's about their own legitimacy, their own prosperity, their own crisis, essentially. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Arshad Yousaf Sahi. Mr. Yousaf Sahi, it's also about the fact that, in the wake of the OIC conference that we had recently, a lot of things that the Prime Minister has been saying. He's been pleading the cause of the Afghans consistently to the West, to the world generally also. Do you think that, how successful do you think Moeed Yousaf is going to be in making sure that no terrorism ensues from the Afghan side of the border?
Well, just as my colleague mentioned earlier, and like you also mentioned about the OIC, I believe that Pakistan has been trying its best. If we take OIC as an example, it's from there onwards that the United Nations, that the European Union, and also Gulf countries are taking serious interest in Afghanistan now. So we have at least achieved success on that chapter, that Pakistan has told the world clearly that they need to assist Afghanistan, and that is needed immediately. Now, about the visit that Moeed Yousaf is having now in Afghanistan and his meetings with the Deputy Prime Minister Abdul Salam Hanafi and Amir Khan Muttaqi, no doubt these are important meetings, because Moeed Yousaf can rightly tell the Afghan Taliban what we are facing at the moment, the rise in the terrorist attacks, not just the TTP, but also the Baloch rebels who have now been.
How effective do you think that they are? How effective do you think the Afghan government will be at this time, considering, of course, that there is a very real, divide within the ranks of the Afghan government also in controlling terrorism? Do you think?
I believe they are in a very tough position. They have challenges because they, on one hand, cannot make things go wrong with Pakistan, and also they have no control over the TTP. They have tried initially to mediate between Pakistan and TTP, the talks that were held in November, but it did not succeed. And all information is that they're still trying, but as you mentioned, there are divisions among the Taliban ranks. The Haqqanis and the Kandaharis are not satisfied with whatever is happening there. Then they cannot take action against the TTP as well. The TTP in Afghanistan have been repeatedly complaining about Pakistan's intervention without any proofs. But I think that the Taliban are facing this challenge, and it is not the time for them. They do not have the capacity at the moment to deal with this issue. And they always have this simple excuse to say that we have other issues to deal with at the moment. The recognition is a big issue, the famine is a big issue, and Pakistan can wait. That's what they're going to say. But I believe that Pakistan, just as they have now on this occasion clarified it to them, and it should be clarified again, that if Afghanistan does not help in this, Pakistan might not, or Pakistan can reduce its own help towards recognition of Afghanistan.
Let me come back to you. Ji, I'm going to go to Kamar Chima. Ji, Chima Sahab, do you agree? You think that it's something that they are going to put on the back burner, which is what Mr. Yousaf Zahi essentially said. He said that they're probably going to say that they have no control, or they're going to say that, probably the kind of response that he's talking about. Are you anticipating that also, or do you think that there will be a more, they will be more circumspect considering the situation that they're in at this time? They don't want to lose Pakistan as an ally. How do you see it?
Well, I think whatever the support the Afghans are getting, and particularly Taliban are getting, they're getting from Pakistan, one thing. Although the Muslim world is particularly divided, the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Turks, and they want to have a separate position, or they want to have a solo role in Afghanistan, and they're trying to pitch over the
Sorry, I can't.
Pakistan is not a part Pakistan is not the Afghans. One thing which I'm very much
Chima Sahab, I think there's a problem with audio. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Lieutenant General Raza Khan. Ji, the same question to you, General Raza. Overall, as far as the situation is concerned, what do you expect? What do you think can we legitimately expect from the Taliban at this time? Do you think they have the kind of effective control needed at this time to clamp down on the terrorism completely? Do you think that they are going to be sincere enough? Do you think that they're going to be genuine enough to attempt that? What do you expect?
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. First of all, I think we all should be concerned about what our constitution tells us and tells us very clearly that Pakistan should have good relations with all neighbors, particularly the Muslim countries, and Afghanistan is one of them. And therefore, I think we are doing everything in our power that is possible to help our Afghan brethren and even their government. Having said that, let me also very clearly enumerate and specify Pakistan's national and national security interests, which are paramount, and they have to be actually protected, defended, and promoted by everyone, all delegations at whatever level they visit Afghanistan, or whether the Afghan delegations visit Pakistan. And actually, they are common interests of Afghanistan and Pakistan. The first one is that we desire a peaceful, united, prosperous, and friendly Afghanistan. Second, we have to ensure effective and functional management of security at the Pak-Afghan borders, and that is done, through the fencing, surveillance, and we have so far spent about $500 million on that, all by ourselves. Although there were expectations that, NATO, ISAF, and the previous Afghan government would chip in, that unfortunately they did not. Then is the regulation of transit trade. Uh, Only, the four recognized gates of friendship, which is Torkham, Chaman, Pir Baldag, Gulam Khan Kili, although there are, at least a dozen more crossings. Then is elimination of terrorism, whether it is by TPP, RAW, ISIS, Al Qaeda, Baluch, terrorists or smugglers. Then the return of all Afghan refugees, back to Afghanistan. Unfortunately, I think that nobody is talking about them. Extension of CPEC, to the Central Asian republics through Afghanistan, the TAPI project, prevention of smuggling of weapons, ammunition, drugs, and illegal persons from Afghanistan to Pakistan. And of course, all, as I said earlier, these are common interests. And I think the government and the people of Afghanistan need to cooperate with the people of Afghanistan and its government for the betterment of the people of both countries. But going back to your question, specific questions about the future, we know that since 15th August, there is still an interim government. One does not know, what kind of constitution is prevalent in Afghanistan. Probably it is a Sharia constitution, and there was some talk of, the Taliban picking up some Islamic provisions out of the previous constitution through a lawyer jargah. But I think there are still questions on that. Then the issue of representation of minorities and female participation. We know that the Taliban, according to the populations, they are 50% of the country's population, but there are other ethnicities, and I think they need to be given representation. And only when there is a broad-based government, I think the government in Afghanistan will actually be stable. That is the only way. Also, we know, there is the issue of Afghan identity cards. Presently, every Afghan has more than 3 to 4 identity cards, which were issued by various regimes that came to power and then went from Afghanistan. Right now, in the past, 100,000 Afghans used to cross in through the gates of friendships, and a quarter
Jensab,
of them used
let
to
me
just
come
cross.
back to you. On that note, let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Kamar Chima Sab. Ji, Chima Sab, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Gee, I can hear you. Basically, I want to go back to that. Of course, some of the things that General Saab is talking about, of course, all of the things are very relevant as far as, the situation on the ground in Afghanistan at this time is concerned. But in your opinion, do you think that, I want to talk about the effectiveness of the Afghan Taliban government at this time? Whether their people will cooperate with them, whether they can clamp down on terrorism effectively. Or it's going to be on the top of their agenda, firstly, whether it's going to be, and secondly, even if it is, how effective can they be?
Well, I think this is very much important. Remember, Pakistan has a very serious concern about TTP. And I think the effectiveness and the seriousness of the Afghan Taliban could be seen from this, that how far they do help Pakistan in eliminating TTP, which is basically a problem for Pakistan's security situation. So right now, if the Taliban will go for talks and dialogue and will go slow on TTP, because the TTP were their friends and brothers in arms while fighting with the Western forces, and the same the Taliban will let them stay in Afghanistan while they will be killing people in Pakistan. They will be targeting our soldiers in Pakistan. That is something which Pakistan must not accept. This is which is not acceptable. And I think the National Security Advisor's visit to Afghanistan is definitely on these lines, because we have certain serious sensitivities about Afghanistan's efficacy. They have an absolute capacity to deal with the TTP and any other group which can target Pakistan. Remember, we have installed a fence on Pak-Afghan border. Much of the work has been done. The only thing which is left is that what is happening in Afghanistan. And remember, we can cooperate with the Taliban, and we can give them whatever possible maximum intelligence sharing to eliminate the TTP in Afghanistan. But we want to see a political will, because recently the attack
Yes,
in Lahore,
that's what I
that
want
was
to talk about. That's my question. How much political will do you think there is in, as far as trying to clamp down on terrorism that is coming from that side to Pakistan? Let me come back to you. Ji, Minhasab, how much political will do you think there is? And effectiveness also, which is extremely important, even if they do have that kind of resolve.
Yeah, I think the resolve they want to show, but they're playing a cat and mouse game with the entire world now.
Including Pakistan.
Including Pakistan, because
Okay.
that's unfortunate.
Okay.
Because they have to keep some friends on their side, and that's what they are not understanding right now. Because if we remember, go back a little bit, August and September, TTP announced their allegiance to the Afghan Taliban. And
Right.
they clearly declared that we are the sister organization of this. So that means they believe that the insurgency they took against the Western powers, TTP's agenda is very clear. So are they going to follow that model in Pakistan? Certainly yes, that's what they want. And immediately after coming into power, they released 100 prisoners of TTP kept by the previous government.
Right.
They are freely roaming around in Afghanistan.
You
And
think there is certain sympathy, as far as, of course,
there is sympathy, and there is a good connection also. It's not only sympathy.
It's also
And
connection, you're saying.
there's also connection, and they have some sway on them.
Okay.
Because naturally they are living under their tutelage. They are not living under Pakistan's control or under anybody's control. Right now, Afghanistan, right or wrong, we cannot go legitimate or not, but they are the legitimate force right now, which is controlling Afghanistan.
So you're saying that if the resolve is indeed there, then they would be effective.
The resolve is there, but they do not want to control. That's what my point is.
That's what I'm saying. So
that's where they are falling us apart also, and they don't understand that if they let TTP do that, they are going to lose credibility, and they are going to lose the only friend they have. And today our foreign minister even said very publicly that there are some forces who do not want us to have a good negotiation with the TTP. So Pakistan had 2 rounds of talks, and the big thing, TTP now is asking for release of around 100 big names from Pakistani prisons, which Pakistan government has not recognized, because there are so many other things which are related to that. So it's a quid pro quo, which Taliban are not looking after their promises or not living by their promises, as Sheikh Rashid, our interior minister, has recently said. So how can Pakistan live up to that promises?
Okay.
And recent attacks are just a testament that they are not living by their promises. So this shows that they are getting the support from nowhere else but from Afghanistan. So this is quite a clear issue. The second thing is, if they are getting that support, that means Taliban are the only force which is right now in control of Afghanistan. So they cannot get any support from there without the Afghan Taliban. So Afghan Taliban has to convert their words into actions if they want to get continued support from Pakistan. Otherwise, this whole facade might break away and might fall down.
Right, let me come back to you. Mr. Yousaf Sahi, as far as the situation, do you think that, of course, the situation at this time on the ground for the Taliban is extremely precarious in the sense that, of course, they realize they have no funds, they have no aid, the little that Pakistan gave out, or, the little that was given all from, other sympathetic countries is minimal, and they don't have the kind of funds that they would need now for sustenance. Do you think that they will be willing to risk all that, considering that we are the only, I think, the kind of sympathetic voice that they have had since they took over?
Yeah, I believe that repeatedly saying this term that we are the only hope of Afghanistan or Afghan Taliban, I don't agree with this. Sorry. In my view, the Taliban have realized that many people are ready to help them, including Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. Not talking about Turkey. But then this recent meeting in Oslo, when Amir Khan Muttaqi went to Oslo, they had meetings with at least 5 different countries there, and right there, the Americans were also present there. From West, the American Special Rep was present there. In between the lines, things are getting clearer for the Taliban. The U.S. has been providing money through one way or the other. Recently, World Bank provided $208 million to Afghanistan to invest on the teachers that were not paid for many months. So I think they have now realized.
So you're quite hopeful that they will put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and they will, try to clamp down on terrorism because they feel it's essential for their existence at this time. That's what you think.
Exactly. That's what I believe, yes. But to me, what are the priorities of the IEA on Afghan Taliban? For them, TTP is not an issue. For them, the issue is ISK, because those are the people who are challenging the Afghan Taliban in different places, in different provinces. While my colleagues have said the relations between TTP and the IEA, a colleague mentioned brothers in arms. I'm sorry, I don't agree with this as well. Although the TTP has repeatedly over many years claimed that they follow, previously they followed Mullah Umar, and then Akhtar Mohammad Mansour, and then Sheikh Haibatullah. But the Afghan Taliban have never accepted them as their friends or their fellows. So we should be clear on that. The problem with the TTP and IEA is Afghan Taliban believe that the TTP did not attack them while they were hiding in Pakistan, and that's why we should not attack them while they are hiding inside Afghanistan now. But for them, keeping relations with Pakistan is important because they also, many of the people that I've talked to in the recent weeks, they always say that they can never forget how Pakistan helped them and their families throughout the years, and that the continued help from Pakistan is what is giving them hope, and the people of Afghanistan are looking towards this help. So I believe that their priorities are to deal with ISK. Other than that, they are concerned about issues that are hot and cold.
Let me come back to you. Tima Sab, do you agree? You think that what Yousaf Sahi Saab is saying, that is essentially true as far as the Taliban is concerned, as far as their sincerity with Pakistan is concerned at this time?
Well, this is true that for the Taliban, the major challenge is Islamic State. But remember, the Taliban are not going to hand over the TTP to Pakistan. The Taliban are not going to listen to Pakistan, whatever we will say them on TTP. They're going to keep their autonomy. They will try to solve that matter politically and diplomatically. And Taliban, remember, Taliban's base is the jihadis. They will never annoy the jihadis who have stood with them. They have remained jihadis for their entire life. They are jihadis even today. There is only one change, and that is behavioral change after the Taliban came power.
I think again, I'm losing audio.
So they have changed. The change we have seen is behavioral.
General Sab, your estimation of the way things stand in Afghanistan at this time. particularly the visit. Do you think that the visit itself has made a difference as far as our relationship with Taliban is concerned? And of course, how much, would they want to put our relationship in jeopardy over the TTP?
Okay, I think this visit by itself was very important, and I am certain that the NSA would have communicated Pakistan's concerns unambiguously and very clearly to the Taliban government, whether it relates to the TPP or other terrorists who they had promised not only Pakistan but the entire world that their Afghan soil will not be allowed to be used against any countries. What to talk of Pakistan?
Pakistan, yeah.
And if somebody says that this is not their concerns, then I think that will be extremely unfortunate, and probably this is what some powers may actually want, that relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan are spoiled because one group which is sitting there in Afghanistan is not being controlled to attack another country. Remember, you asked a question about their capacity. Well, I think there is a very simple answer to that, and that is that if they could defeat the Afghan National Army in the past, comprising 300,000 people, and if they could also fight NATO ISAF, comprising more than 40 countries, I think controlling the TPP or Baloch rebels or others should be no issue for them whatsoever. And therefore, I think the people and the government of Afghanistan expects them to take this issue extremely seriously. And if this is not taken seriously, then I'm afraid I think they will lose one way or the other. Not only the support of the government of Pakistan, but also the people of Afghanistan, the people of Pakistan. And if that happens, it will neither be good for Afghanistan, not for Pakistan. And we hope, that they are able to pay equal attention to this issue as they are paying, to their economic revival, in which it is. I think the whole world knows Pakistan is uh, more concerned about that than anyone else in the world.
Right, right. Jima Sab, I think there was a problem with audio. Again, how relevant is this in terms of our relationship with the Afghan Taliban at this time? What General Saab is saying, of course, he's saying that they can't afford at this time not to clamp down on terrorism that is coming from that side to Pakistan, because really there is no alternative for them at this time.
Well, obviously, what we have done for over the last 2 decades, we have just fought against terrorism. And even then, the world blamed us for that. We have laid lives, we have gone for an economic loss, billions of dollars. So we do not have a choice to give to the Afghan Taliban that they will, for some time, they will give space to the terrorists who are attacking Pakistan, and later on they will see. I think the moment Afghan Taliban or the Afghan government is recognized globally, there will be completely a change in their perspective towards Pakistan. And remember, they have a very heavy baggage, that the people who have the people who are not giving them legitimacy, they do not want Taliban to be a proxy of Pakistan. They want Taliban to represent Afghan society. And for long, some segments of the Afghan society have been very hard and tough on Pakistan. And we have seen that in the past. So the Afghan Taliban are not going to annihilate at large scale to the Afghan population. Although the Afghans are getting benefits from Pakistan, they're coming on daily basis. Afghanistan is a landlocked country. We are helping them, our brothers and our sisters in Afghanistan. But remember, we have to remember
Ji, Minhas Sab.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate situation where I think it's not only, again, I would draw to the bigger picture now, that in the region lots of things are happening. It's not only Afghanistan.
Right.
I mean, Americans are already engaged with the China in the South China Sea. There are already issues with Iran, which is bordering Afghanistan. So region is overall volatile.
Right.
If we should not forget that India right now, since this departure of Americans from there, and they also had to depart, they invested heavily in Afghanistan. And they have collectively, I think, with the Central Asian states, with the other left out people, because if Pakistan is conducting OIC, India is conducting the summits with the regional powers also. So that means that nobody is sitting silent on this issue. And everybody is watching Afghan Taliban very closely, and by proxy Pakistan also, because we somehow are knitted together in such a relationship that world cannot just separate us. And as General Sahab also said, and other colleagues are also saying, that our relations, not only relations, our interests are intertwined.
Right.
We cannot live without each other. Anything happening there will impact us, and anything happening to us will certainly make them worse than what they are now. So they should understand that there are lots of forces, and they cannot just shy away from or cannot take the responsibility by just saying that, oh no, we don't have the control over them. As my friend Yousaf is saying,
Minhasab,
that they are
overall-
holding that traditional thing,
Right.
that we will not say anything to them and they will not say anything to them.
But overall, as far as the narrative is concerned, as far as the narrative that the Talibans have tried to give since they took over, you know, saying that this is a new breed of Taliban, saying that they're going to initially, you know, they were very, very categorical. They said they would give rights to women, they would give rights to children, they would, you know, their education, all of those things. This is a more liberal kind of Taliban, and therefore trying to get the international community to be sympathetic to them.
Yeah.
Also to give them aid, all of those things. If they don't do you know, if they don't clamp down on terrorism in Pakistan at this time, do you think would it be a severe blow to that narrative itself? And I'm sure that they realize that, because
I hope
you know,
they do.
for the world.
It's very, I mean, you have put it very beautifully that all these things are at stake now. Because certainly they posed a very changed entity as
Right.
Taliban when they came into power. They have good English speakers. They are talking to the international media. They have let the international media in. Look at all the women. If there were women protests against Taliban rule, then there were women protests
them.
for Taliban
Yes,
also
yes.
rule. So that
And
means
even the optics of it, you know,
And the
they
optics,
tried
yeah.
to at least give out the right kind of optics for the world. right?
Exactly. And they gave very good positive, as you rightly said. And all of that is at stake. Just by living by the traditions, which brought them the downfall in 96. If you remember 2001, same narrative.
Right.
That we cannot let Al-Qaeda go because they are our friends, they are guests to us, and our traditions tell us that we cannot let the guest be harmed.
Right.
But that tradition has brought the downfall, and look at 20 years of destruction to that country because of that narrative.
Because of that narrative. And what happens to the humanitarian crisis that is, you know, still building up in that part of the world?
Yes, and unfortunately, as Yousaf is saying, that Americans and the Europeans are putting money there, but they are not giving it to the Afghan government.
Okay.
They are giving it to UNICEF, they are giving it to WHO, they are giving it to all the UN organizations. They are not giving it. The teacher salaries are will be going through UNICEF.
Okay.
So
yeah.
UNICEF is listing down. So what is the rate of the government if all these is done? So that means that if the Western powers are going to invest money in worsening that humanitarian crisis which is building up there, that means they have interest. And they have vested interest because they, as I said, that if they believe that this country can harm the beneficiary, the only person or only country which is standing for them in the international community, if they are not spared by this country, then how can they fulfill all those promises which you are telling that they have created
Right,
that optic
you know,
to tell the world
yeah.
that we will not let this land to But if you are sticking to the same old narrative that guests cannot be harmed, and those guests are now playing with the lives of other countries.
Other people and sympathetic countries like Pakistan.
And
which,
especially the
know,
country which is the only
pleading their case.
Yes.
Our Prime Minister has gone so out of the way to
Exactly.
plead the case of the Afghans.
We got all that wrath because the Western we are becoming a suspicious country, that why you are supporting Taliban,
right.
despite all this fact. But now I think we might also have to change the narrative if this thing is not controlled by Afghan Taliban within their soil.
Do you anticipate that it will be?
We have to. We might, because remember what my understanding and what my information is, that Moeed has not just gone to get some support. Moeed has gone to be very categorical about our stance.
Okay.
Moeed has gone with a dossier of information which we have got collected now, that from where and who is doing this harm to Pakistan on the Afghanistan, on the Balochistan side and on this side. And our soldiers are laying their lives again, and again the attacks are building up, and there are different threats, and our interior minister is saying. So we have got plenty of evidence which has gone with Moeed to Afghanistan, and hopefully this is a warning shot from Pakistan. I would say it in quote unquote things.
Okay, that's an interesting term that you've used.
Yeah, this is a warning shot for Afghan Taliban, that they have to wake up. Otherwise, there are other options on the table also.
For Pakistan also. Yousaf Zaid Saab, do you think that it's going to serve as, Minhas Saab is saying, it's going to serve as a warning for the Afghans, Afghan Taliban, and they are going to realize that, if they don't control the terrorism coming from that side, then of course, Pakistan will withdraw its support, it will stop pleading their cause, all of those things.
I completely agree with Minhasa, because Pakistan needed to tell the Afghan Taliban that they are not happy with these increasing attacks. And telling the Taliban anything that you don't like is a good sign and a good thing, because then they think over it and they discuss these issues among themselves, among their elders. And once an issue is brought up to them, they always think about all the challenges that are there, the repercussions that might happen. So I think it's a wise thing to do. And just like Minhas Sahab said, I believe our NSA has told Afghan Taliban this loud and clear. And I think the Taliban are going to take this issue serious from now onwards. But it is not just from us that, the Taliban come to know about this issue. I believe people we have been trying to assist throughout these past years, be the Americans in the Doha process or elsewhere, the Europeans, they should also come back now, and they should tell the Taliban that the Taliban need to do something serious to stop these infiltrations from Afghanistan, and that they should either make the TTP sit and talk to the Pakistani authorities, or then control them.
Do you think we will see that kind of initiative from anybody else, Chima Saab, that Yousaf Zaid Saab is talking about? Chima Saab, can you hear me?
Raise the question properly? Sorry, I couldn't hear your question. What is the question?
Yousaf Zaid Saab is saying that he thinks that there should be a reaction from the international community, and that they should highlight this issue and make the Taliban heed if it's a warning from Pakistan's side as far as clamping down on terrorism is concerned. Do you expect the international community to take that kind of step forward?
Well, I think the international community, as far as what I've understood from your question, is that international community obviously must take a stern action on that. And I think Pakistan and international community has a one common goal, and that is fighting terrorism. And this goal must not stop. And I think one of the reservation of the Western world,
the international community is concerned, they're not largely, the international community at this time is not in great favor as far as the Taliban is concerned anyway, right?
Pakistan is there. We have struggled against terrorism. We have been the victim of the terrorism. And I think this is what we need to project to the world, that we stand with the international community in fighting against terrorism. All what we need is, we need to see that in which direction the Afghanistan goes, and we must not get dragged by what are the wishes of the Taliban. We must not get dragged with those wishes. We must look.
Right, Ji.
Yeah, I would say that international community has different goals. So we should be very clear on that. Because why should America come and save me from TTP?
That's
Why
what I'm
should
saying.
European Union come and save me from TTP? Because we have also been accused of playing double games. Remember that. Don't forget, 20 years after Americans have left, American media is full of accusations against Pakistan.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They're not
European media is full of
sympathetic to start
accusations
off
against
with, as far
Pakistan.
as- right.
So
And the Taliban also.
and Taliban also, because they have been claiming that we were supporting them, and that's
Right.
why they got defeated there.
Huh.
So we should understand that we have to build not only their case, but we are also building our case.
Right.
That we are innocent, we did not do anything, but we are bringing sanity and we are bringing power back to the people
Because
of
we want
Afghanistan.
peace in the region, we want
Exactly.
to clamp down on terrorism, we want there to be that kind of tranquility, peace and
And the regional equilibrium also.
right,
We
and
did not
also-
want to
so-
destabilize the entire
right,
region.
for the purpose of exactly clamping down on terrorism, for there to be peace, right, General Saab, if you've been following?
Yes, I am.
Been building that cause because we want to, exactly for the reason that we want peace in the region, and we want there to be this clamping down on organizations like the TTP. We've suffered so much from it, and that's our narrative, that Pakistan has been a sufferer, not an aider of this kind of organizations, these kind of terrorist organizations like the TTP.
You see, we know that if there has been, wars in Afghanistan the last 4 decades, then I think one major reason for that was that the Pak-Afghan border either was not recognized as it should, although the rest of the world recognizes this as an international border. Some elements in Afghanistan may probably, on behest of some foreign powers, particularly India, they have been resisting, Pakistan's efforts for border control here through fencing and a lot of other measures. I think that should be now history. It should be past because that has been creating problems for Pakistan as well as Afghanistan. Secondly, I think there was a talk of the perceptions of the people of Afghanistan. Let me state it very clearly that at least, in the last decades or so, tons of money were spent on the manipulation of the perceptions of some segments of the Afghan society, and they were turned hostile towards Pakistan. I think that is going to change with the present Afghan government, and that will change because that was based lies and deception. And the people of Afghanistan are very wise, and they
Right.
understand, that Pakistan and Afghanistan are brotherly neighboring countries whose security and prosperity is interconnected, and therefore they need to work hand in glove, and they should be watchful of peace spoiler, which has been India in the past, and before that, there were other powers. So hopefully, I think as time passes, the present Afghan government will realize and understand that the salvation of both the countries and both the people, they lie in close cooperation with each other, amongst which, the management of the border and the return of Afghan refugees, 4 million of them, back to Afghanistan as soon as possible.
Right. Thank you so much for being with us. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you for joining us. Saeed Minhas Saab, thank you for being with us. Arshad Yousaf Sahi, thank you for joining us. Kamar Chima, thank you for being with us. Lieutenant General Raza Khan, thank you for joining us today. As far as the Taliban is concerned, one hopes that the fact that Pakistan is essential at this time to any kind of peace, any kind of tranquility, any kind of there being any kind of tranquility within Afghanistan, in the sense that the humanitarian crisis that has been brewing since the Americans left is a crisis that has been taken up very personally by the Pakistani government, by Pakistan, and we've been pleading their cause. And I hope that they realize that if they don't support Pakistan, if they don't clamp down on terrorism, which is the agenda on which Moeed Yousaf has gone to Afghanistan, there will be a cost to pay for Afghanistan itself, and also will be a severe blow to the narrative that they have been giving out to the world, a narrative of the fact that this is a different Taliban, a narrative of the fact they want peace, a narrative of the fact that they are they're more liberal, they want to bring peace to the region, and will be conditional upon any kind of funds or recognition that they might hope for. Let's hope that they can do that. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.